There we go. So the session is being recorded. Excellent. Welcome, everybody. Really, really nice to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, before we get started, just to show you on here, here's the plan. This is, an introduction to online and blended learning. I'd just like to say hello, and that my name is John Paul, and I'll be sort of presenting and leading the session today. But we also have my friend and colleague Lee, who's going to take a sort of behind the scenes role today. He's going to be managing the chat window, so that any questions and thoughts that are coming around, if you'd like to use that chat window to interact during the session, please feel free. That could be, you can have conversations that are going on in the background like that, and that wouldn't bother us in the least. And Lee will, occasionally sort of interrupt in order to bring those through here. Now, one thing I need to check first of all is that everybody can see and hear okay. So again, I'm just going to show that up here. Now, I'm hoping so far that you found the My Status window thing, and that you can see that on that you've got an option of agree and disagree. So the question I'm asking really is, I'd like you to use the agree or disagree, please. Can you hear and see okay? And are you? I love the Makaton for comfortable. So you sort of get yourself comfortable. And may I also check if the screen color is okay. So would you mind using the agree or disagree just to give me an idea? Is that all working for you as regards the technology?
Relax. Hear my Crocs.
Lovely. Now the other thing I'm going to mention,
video, so you can't keep walking behind me.
I'm just going to mute everybody, just so that we'll use that as a convention through the webinar. When you'd like to come in on something, just either pop up your hand, and could you all show me that you can find popping up your hand? Lovely. If you just pop the hands, that'd be really helpful. Lovely. So I think if you're having any trouble with what I mean by popping up the hand, then on the slides there are some instructions about that, and I'm hoping that you might have got a copy of the slides from the website. They're all available on the website. There's a hyperlink to those slides. They're also available in the what's it called? If you look at number 3 there's a share content icon. The slides there as well. So just before we sort of get any further, I'm hoping that you can see and hear okay, and that you're all comfortable, and that you've done battle with your own technology. May I just check if you'd like to pop up any hands? If anybody's got any questions, please feel free to pop up your hands at any point. And if that doesn't need to be questions, that can be comments and thoughts. So lovely. Would anybody like to pop up a hand with any questions or worries at that point? Lovely. So I've got a few hands up. Who'd like to go first? If at this point you'd pop on your microphone, and it'd be really nice if you popped on your webcam as well, but no pressure. If anybody'd like to come in on that, please feel free. So, for example, Andrea, Janet, and Andrea, do any of you have anything you'd like to come in on there? No, lovely. So we'll keep an eye out for hands up there. I am going to mute everybody, and just because otherwise you get sort of interference between the microphones. So I'm muting everybody there. And with your webcams, if you'd like to mute your webcams, sometimes that can help on bandwidth issues for some people, but please feel free to pop those on whenever you like. Right, so I'm hoping people are ready to go, and we've still got some people joining us, up to 29. That's lovely. So we've just checked that you can see and hear okay. The next bit I'd like to do is just to sort of share with you what the plan is really. Now, I'm wondering if people would find it helpful if I read stuff that's on the screen. I know that some learners find it really helpful to have that, and other learners find it really annoying. I tend to side with the people who would find that helpful. So would you mind giving me and agree if you would find it helpful if I read stuff out that's on the screen. Now, you notice I've already seen them, and that's enough, so that's brilliant. So I will read stuff out. I won't be reading absolutely everything. I'll just read the stuff that I think you'll find helpful. So this is basically the plan, to explore what are online and blended learning and why do they matter. We'll spend a bit of time on that, and we'll use this as an opportunity to try out some different tools. We're definitely going to stop on time, by the way, just in case you're worried. I'm just going to put an alarm on now. Hey Siri, set an alarm for 5 o'clock today, please.
I've set an alarm for 1700 hours.
You notice my Irish accent on my on my smartphone. Now, we're also going to be exploring how is online and blended learning going for you, and what would you find helpful as regards support. I'm really grateful those people who've had a chance to fill in that survey. We'll look at the results of that survey, and that might guide some of our conversations. And we'll be using breakout rooms in order to do that. That means you'll be able to, off camera, get together with the other people in this webinar and chat together in those breakout rooms. I'll show you how that works later. And then 3 is looking at this possibility of an online and blended learning community, a learning community of practice, and to see, might that be of interest. Basically what we're doing now in this meeting, and we'll meet again for those who'd like to join us at the same time, same place next Monday. And then quite a bit of time for questions and comments and feedback. So I'm hoping that you'll use the hands up if you'd like to come in on any of these things, but be okay so far? Would you mind using a smiley face? Now that could be a happy, a sad, a surprised, or confused. If you click on my status, so I'm just going to show you where that is. If I take my screen over to there for a moment and show you that, sort of disappears. Do you see this one? If you click on my status, and could you just choose one of those faces, like how you're feeling at the moment? So for example, I'm feeling very happy. That makes sense. Lovely. Just in case anybody's sad, don't forget Lee is there in the background in the chat window, ready to help. And please pop something in the chat window to keep Lee busy. Okay, so moving on at that point. So, I think looking at definitions can sometimes be useful. So I'm just going to read a couple of definitions so we're clear about what the terms can mean. And I love the thing in sort of academic work that sometimes it's useful to have a number of different definitions to look at complex terms. These are complex terms, online learning and blended learning, but this might be a good place to get started. So online learning is also called other things like e-learning and distance learning, and there's lots of dispute about these terms in the literature. So I found this helpful. Online learning is described by most authors as access to learning experiences via the use of some technology. So we're using a Collaborate virtual classroom today. This is online learning. Now the blended learning thing here is an instructional model that redefines learning to integrate face-to-face instruction and online learning. So I'm hoping that's making sense that, if you've got your online learning here where, the access is purely over the internet or whatever, and you've got your face-to-face teaching here, blended learning is the overlap between those two. And this model allows for greater personalization, increasing learners' ownership and choice over place, path, pace, and time of learning. So you notice that's quite a positive view of what blended learning, what online learning might involve. I'm guessing that in the challenging context that we're all working in at the moment during the lockdown, not all our experiences will be that positive of this. And if anybody like to come in, with any points about this, please feel free. The idea is not a sort of lecture type thing, but more a sort of seminar where we can discuss things. But I understand that you might prefer to wait for the the breakout room bit to do that. Yeah. So what are the terms? I'm hoping that's making a bit of sense. Can you give me a rough idea with your my status, if that's is that making sense basically? Could you do an agree or disagree, please? Does that make sense? Lovely. Are you beginning to see how that agree or disagree works? If that's not meant, please pop a message in the chat window, and I'm sure Lee would be really happy to help you sort that out. Lee, you're a marvel. Right. Now, the question of why these things might matter. I mean, in one sense, we could answer that at the moment of saying, well, isn't it sort of obvious that, 90% of the world's children, as we speak, according to UNESCO, are not in school at the moment, and many of those children who are not in school are relying on online learning in order to carry on their education. Here's a quote. It says, "The invention and widespread adoption of the internet introduced a paradigmatic shift, a major socioeconomic leap in human development with profound implications for learning." We've got something extraordinary going on at the moment, in the world. And I'm sorry, I'm just getting some of my notes up here. I had a few notes hidden below for myself, but it might help me to have them here. Yeah, here we go. That maybe in the last century there was a sort of move from a didactic approach to teaching, the sort of sage on the stage, the teacher at the front, just sort of transmitting knowledge to the pupils as if that's possible, knowledge and skills. And then there was a sort of move towards more sort of active learning, where we try and get learners in a classroom really actively involved in their own learning. And there's writers, for example, Scaramalaya and Bereiter 2006, who talk about this shift to the influence of the internet and online learning and blended learning as being every bit as important as those previous changes. So we've got something huge going on here that is really challenging for all of us in the various contexts we're working in, but also has great potential. Now, there's literature there in case you're interested. The fancy language for this is online collaborative learning theory, and there's much more about it in that if anybody's like to follow that up. I don't quite know how much sort of theory you'd like in this sort of session, so I'd be really grateful if you'd use the the chat window or come, pop your microphone on and tell me if that's a route that you'd like to take. Now, just to show you a bit of the sort of, many of you had a chance to fill in this survey. If you haven't yet, I'd be really grateful if you'd fill it in. It just gives us a rough idea of the sort of spread of people who might be on the call with us. That we've got a lot of primary colleagues. Welcome. We've got. I work in primary education. My background is as a secondary teacher. As I was telling some of you earlier, I was a mainstream secondary teacher for 10 years, and then 7 years in special ed, and now I've been 8 years at Christchurch. And now I work in primary initial teacher education. I'm an educational researcher. I do sort of video-based pedagogy analysis. So videoing lessons with teachers watching their practice back, and videoing teachers as they explain what's going on in lessons, and then getting pupils from the lesson to watch their own lesson back, and videoing the pupils as a group as they explain what's going on in lessons. So, I'm really interested in the nitty-gritty of what happens in lessons, basically. I hope that gives you a rough idea of the sort of, spread of who's on the call with us today. So you'll be chatting later with people, who may be in a very, very different context, who may be using online and blended learning in very different ways. I think it'd be really interesting as a sort of community of practice, an idea we'll talk more about later, to just sort of see, well, how are we using these tools at the moment? In the survey as well, we asked you about, what online and collaborative learning tools are you already confident using? And I don't know about you, but my learning curve has been huge. At the moment, I'm using, Skype for chatting with the family, Zoom for chatting with friends in the large community, Collaborate for this sort of, online teaching, Microsoft Teams for, our working in the university, and loads of these tools that we've been playing around with. And I imagine you may well have similar experiences of, upping your skill set at the moment in just because we have to, in a sense, but also perhaps because many of us are motivated to sort of pick up new skills and use them in our teaching. I'd also like to show you, what you are as regards, what things that you might find useful as regards training. And I think that's interesting, just to sort of highlight a couple of things here that I'm hoping, yeah, you can see my cursor there, I think. You notice the one that came up the largest on this. Sorry, I'm just going to show pointer options, arrow options, visible, so it doesn't disappear all the time. You notice the one that people asked most about was the Google Classroom, a virtual classrooms. Now we're using a virtual classroom, this today, the Collaborate room that we're in. And I'm hoping that, through the chat window, I can see loads of chat going on. That's wonderful. You see, how things like this can be used. Just having a look at the time, we're fine. I'd also like to pick out the other one that came up really strongly, which was something about, online learning journals. My son uses Tapestry at school. My son's school uses Tapestry as one example of an online learning journal. Many of you might be familiar with that sort of technology. Really, really powerful way that we can share, schools can share pictures and videos of learning happening in the classroom with home, and home can share pictures and videos of learning happening at home with colleagues in school. Really good for communication both ways. Okay, now here's the big sort of helping. We've got this website that the wonderful Lee has made with support for lots of people, and I just want to show that website up here just to point you in the direction of a few things. Hoping you can now see that, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that we can see that a bit better. You notice that's inclusion. If you can't see what's on the screen, then it's really annoying. There's a couple of ways I can zoom. I can either zoom through the what's it called, Google Chrome tab here. By the way, do you know about the holding Control key down and using the wheel on your mouse? That works as well. That can be really useful. The other way we can zoom is actually in Collaborate, where I can just where's it gone? Oh, trying to find my mouse. Where I can just sort of zoom in a bit like this. So that should make it a bit bigger on your screen. So I'm hoping you can see that. I don't know. I just need to remember what I'm scrolling, basically. So there's all sorts of things available here. There's the survey, which would be really grateful if you haven't filled in yet, if you did that. Slides for today are available there. That's a bit about us. There's this wonderful website that Lee's made. I'm just going to show you that briefly, just to show you, some examples of, well, this one's got really nice guides. Again, I'm just going to do the Control key and, oh, sorry, I need to use the plus on this one, don't I? This one's got guides. For example, Google Classroom. If you'd like to have a go with that, well, click on that, on the guide, and it'll take you to what to do. Yeah? So I'm hoping you'll find some of the resources from that useful. This is one that I've done, which is just a Padlet. Many of you might be familiar with Padlet. Really powerful in that it allows learners to post their own things on here. So, for example, oh, sorry, I'm just going to scroll to the top of there. So this is an online and blended learning Padlet. And you can share things on here if you want, so video storytelling, and if you'd like to make a wormery, there's a hyperlink to how to do that. 50 activities to do with Duplo. Have I talked you into doing this? Lots of different hyperlinks to various things, including Padlet. Mentimeter we're going to be using later. But basically, if you wanted to post onto that Padlet, you can. Just find the, once you log in, just need to find the pink circle that comes up on that. So have I done enough to persuade you to maybe have a look at that website? I'm hoping. All sorts of nice things here. Yeah. So that was that bit. Now I need to go back here. Give me a moment to reset that, get this back out of the way, and get you the slides back. And that's a hyperlink to the website there. Oh, what's going on? Sorry, just need to get my, yeah, I need to get that up. Sorry, lost my train of thought. Now, could we just have a very quick go on Mentimeter? some of you might have used this before. Please use the chat window if you have any trouble with this. What you need to do basically, if you've got a mobile phone, that would be the most handy thing to do this. If you get a mobile phone out and just get Chrome up or any sort of browser, I'm just doing that in front of you here. Could you search for www.menti.com, go to that website, and then there's a code to put in, which is 44. Oh, and you just need to activate those slides, sorry. Here we go. I need to present, activate that. But the one I want to show you is this one. Lovely. So if I go here, there we go. Could you see if you could find that on Menti? The code you need is 446068. I'm just going to pop this up as a tab. As you put your results in there, do you see that that's interactive, that it's sort of showing our collective results for the group? It also gives me access to individual results on that, so I can see. I'm just going to submit. There's a slider. How skilled and willing was I used to use blended learning before all of this? I'm a bit of a geek, you know, I did like that sort of thing. Do you see how that's beginning to move around? And I suppose I was reasonably well skilled, but then during the I'm more willing, because I suppose I'm seeing the importance of this, and I suppose I've increased my skill a bit, yeah. And then if I submit that, does that make sense? A sort of interactive tool for you know, for finding out what people think, and to share those results in real time with participants. So that was just, you know, thought I'd demonstrate that basically. Thought you might find that interesting. Can I just check with the pace of how I'm going? Because we're getting on for halfway through. Could you use the, if you're happy with the pace, could you use a happy face? If you'd like me to go faster, could you use the fast, what's it called? My status button there. Could you use the faster? And if you'd like me to go a bit slower, can you use the slower? And I can take it. It's a genuine question. How are you finding the pace I'm going at? Maybe a bit faster, but quite a few people quite happy, but I'm getting faster. Lovely. So I'm going to speed up a bit. Thank you. That's really helpful. Please keep going on that sort of you know, feedback type thing. It's really, really helpful. Right. So how are things? We're going to go into the breakout rooms now. So I'll split you into small groups, just in random groups. You can switch rooms if you like, you know, if that doesn't work out. Please pop your microphone on immediately and your webcam, because everybody else will if you do. And just chat. It's not recorded in the rooms. I'm back in the main room if you want to leave that room. And I think we might make that 10 minutes chat, if that's okay. And then I'll give you a chat message to say we're coming back in. But I'd like to make it a considerable amount of time. And during it, on Menti, I'm going to be putting up what's it called? Like a discussion board. So this is ideas, comments, and questions. Again, I'm just going to show you what that looks like. So we're going to use that when you all come back. So please use that that Menti board with any ideas, comments, and questions while you're in the rooms. Okay, same code 446068. So that should be up on your mobiles or whatever now. Right, so if that's okay with everybody, we're just going to do the breakout rooms. Could you give me an indication with a sort of a happy or a sad, if that's okay for you to go into breakout rooms? Lovely. I'm getting quite a few agrees and happy, so we'll do that now. See you in a bit. Hey Siri, count down 10 minutes, please.
Okay, 10 minutes and counting.
So there's about 30 of us. So if I go into, is that 6 rooms enough? And I will allow you to switch rooms and randomly assign. Good luck. See you in a bit. Hi Lee, you still there?
Yes, mate, I'm here. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, good, thanks. With the chat window, everything okay so far?
Yes, some people have. There was one or two people that had trouble with audio and not they couldn't hear. So one person did leave, which was a shame. But I told them that we were recording it. Then other people found that if they accessed it via their mobile phones, if all the other strategies failed, that they could hear us. So yeah, Jake Greenswood, yeah, now he's on his phone, you can hear it fine, which is great. However, yeah, I think somebody else, yeah, they got access via Chrome and stuff. So I think just to emphasise, using Chrome is probably a good idea
Yeah.
before. Yeah, so for
Oh,
next week.
so I should have, yeah, thank you. Use Chrome. I'm just making a note for it. And anything else I should be learning from this, Lee?
Let's think
We're being recorded, by the way, just to.
yeah, I'm quite aware of that. No, I think as long as if we just emphasise that you know, some of the strategies that we're going to be looking at, the next session will be quite a pragmatic one and stuff as well. Yeah, then yeah, that's absolutely fine. Other than that, yeah, there's a good turnout of people. It's all great. It seems to be working, though. It seems a bit odd that one or two people have struggled with sound. Nobody else has indicated it. Otherwise, yeah. Otherwise, yeah. So it's not a wider problem. I just think it's in one or two instances, really. Yeah, so you're always going to get a few little minor glitches, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah. Lee, do you know with people using Macs when you're using Collaborate, have you come across the problem with people not being able to see video streamed when you're sharing a screen?
Yes. Have you done the thing? Have you done the thing where I'm sure you've already done this, but because I did this when I was teaching on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
When you go to share your screen or application, when you go to select it, you'll notice in the bottom left-hand corner there's the share audio option, and if that's turned on, then whatever you play within your the application you select, the sound will be heard. If you don't turn that on, unfortunately, for some people are on some systems, whatever you play, they'll just see the screen, they'll see the visuals, but they won't hear any sound.
Oh, that's really helpful. But I think there's people who are not getting video streamed. Oh,
right, okay. Yeah, again on Saturday, the people was using a range of different devices, and
didn't have that problem.
Yeah, constantly it wasn't a problem. However, I do always encourage students to always use their Chrome, even if they're on Macs. Yeah, because of that seems to get around the problem. Because Safari's pretty good, to be fair, but sometimes yeah, depending on if you've got an older version of it, yeah, that's a problem. If you're on a Mac and you've got an older version of Safari, sometimes that can be glitchy and it doesn't give you full functionality.
That's really helpful. So it might be that they're on a Mac and they're so used to Safari that they haven't realized they actually need to download Google Chrome on that. Thank you.
Yeah, so that might be worth mentioning to the start of the next session and stuff as well. Yeah.
We've got another 6 minutes, Lee.
All right, cool.
I'm just wondering whether we'd go into the rooms to go and say hello.
Yes, you can do. I'm literally I'm just going to quickly reply to this, and then sorry, and then I'll be in there. Is that okay?
Yeah, no worries. So I think I'm going to nip into the rooms just to say hi.
Are you just going into? You just randomly nipping into one or two rooms, are you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Just, what do you think? Is it better to leave people in peace or?
No, I'll go in and say hi. We're doing you fine, and I would just literally indicate to them that you're going to be bringing them all back into the main room in a couple of minutes. Yeah, just kind of mention that.
I usually do that with the chat window. I'm just wondering whether people will benefit from us joining, or whether it's better for them to give them a bit of time to talk. I think it actually might be better to give them time to talk. I think I'm going to leave people in peace.
Okay. However, it might be worth if you get if I'm just going to nip into actually. How many chat rooms have we got? We've got.
I think I did 6.
6, yeah. So we've got Kai seems to be trying to join into group 6, and she still doesn't seem to be having access. However, if you go in the first 3 and I'll go into the bottom 2, and we don't need to talk, but what we can do is we can just go to indicate to them that they've got another couple of minutes, and we'll be bringing them back just in case that they're going to be left in there.
Yeah. See you in a bit.
Okay. Right. See you in a sec.
quite hard.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming. Oh,
we've disappeared.
Hello, everyone. Hello, we're just coming back into the main room there.
hello.
Hi. Please feel free to leave your webcams on if you like. You're welcome to turn those off. But you're back in this is the main room, so this is the recorded one. Just to give you a heads up on that. I just wondered, in case anybody would like to come in at that point, you know, any comments or thoughts about those discussions. Don't forget, you can use your hands up thing if you'd like to sort of give an indication of that. I think the hand up at the moment is me, by the way, so I'll put my hand down. Anybody like to come in? Thanks, Peter. Do come on in.
Oh yeah, I think from I was in. I mean, it's common knowledge that we are adjusting to this online learning, online and blended learning. So there's a mixture. For example, at my school, we use online learning only for the lower school because of the disruptive nature that having something like this to say a larger group. Whereas with sixth formers, where you only have say 5 to 10 students, it's very possible to have blended learning. So we are all adapting. Children are adapting as well. Yes.
Lots to get used to, both for them, both children in our classes, and for ourselves as educators. May I share just briefly a quick story that I heard? This sort of hands up thing that I was encouraging you to do, the raise hand. Sorry, I've told one of the groups this. That a pupil in one of these online learning things put the raised hand, and then the teacher asked, is there anything you wanted to say? And then the kid said, no, I was just stretching. I love the thing that children are starting to be creative with this thing. With my family, we do the thing of when you get the bad reception on Skype or whatever, and it freezes for a moment. That when the picture comes back on, that the game is to sort of do a really, really silly face, and then to see how long it takes for the other person to realize you're pulling a face at them. That actually, as we gradually get used to this new technology, well, there's opportunities to be very silly with this, and that's part of being a kid at school, I reckon. But challenging behaviour in this sort of environment can be quite tricky at the same time, given that the power relations are so different. Anybody like to come in on any of that? Would I be right in thinking that there's something quite challenging about this sort of learning environment emotionally? That getting comfortable in an environment like this, I think, takes some time. And I think if we're going to work together, I think we might need to be really gentle with each other over I don't think it's the first meeting of a group like this where we're all going to be comfortable chatting online in this new environment. It's just too much to get used to. Yeah.
Well, it's difficult because we don't know anybody. That's the problem. We don't know a lot of the people that we're talking to, and obviously it makes it quite sort of it's not exactly ideal. Yeah, but I'm sure we'll get to know each other sooner rather than later. So
yeah, lovely. Thanks, Anthony. Lisa, did you want to come in on that?
Yeah, I was just going to echo actually what Anthony just said. It's doubly sort of more difficult because it's the first time we've sort of spoken and seen each other. So it's probably a bit different. I've used Zoom last week, I think it was. We used Zoom with my Senko group, and that was a lot easier. The flow was just flowing because we know each other, and that'll be the same with your students.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I thanks so much, Lisa. I really agree with that. And I think over time it's possible to sort of work through some of the sort of glitches of the technology and our own personal sort of confidence levels in order to be able to work in these sorts of environments. But challenging stuff.
So Anthony, what do you want to say, Anthony?
Oh yeah, all I was going to say, the other thing is that we've got children at home as well, so it makes it more difficult. I don't know if you're under some similar sort of circumstances, but I find that that's the most difficult part for me is the fact that I've got my children at home, and my youngest one is the most challenging one as well. And being able to do something like this with the children in the background is not easy because you don't know if they're going to come in any minute into the room and
I'm half expecting my 5-year-old to turn up any moment. Any moment. He's in these meetings. Sorry. Thank you so much, Anthony. Natalie, did you want to come in on that? Natalie, I think you might have a hand up there. Is that something you'd like to say? And Lisa, did you want to come in at all?
Yeah. Oh, go on, Natalie. Do you want to go first? No. Okay. So just what Anthony was saying about having kids, family in the background. I think we're all going to sort of evolve if we're having to get used to this. If your kid comes in, your kid comes in. Joins in the lesson. You might break the ice as well.
Yeah. It's not the end of the world. Yeah. Do you remember how we all giggled when that guy on the news, his kid came in and then his wife came in to try and and it seems like another world now because it's just so normal for so many of us. Anybody else like to come in on that? Lee, I think you had a hand up there.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, on the one hand, one of the beauties about online learning, one of the things that I think we can relax about to some degree, is that it has got a bit more of a flexible, informal nature. So again, somebody commented about the US clip about the prank that was being played, and sometimes you're disrupted with your kids and the family coming in, or your partners appearing, and the trick is given the fact that, and again, we'll be looking at some of these strategies next week. As long as we've got a carefully sort of planned session where when we're showing visuals and multimodal material, whether it be YouTube clips, as long as we're keeping our students actively engaged and saying, right, I'm going to quickly give you a link here and I want you to quickly respond and I will give you 5 minutes to do it. And then we'll have a look at what you've come up with. As long as we're keeping them actively involved in the same ways that we would within a classroom potentially, where we're giving them sort of things to actually engage them and that they can share with us as well. But to some degree, there's a little bit of disruption going on in the background. And, people are sitting there with their sandwiches and they're having their coffees, etc. As long as they're feeling they're actively engaged and you're giving them cues of how to get involved, the flow of the session will be quite good, and we can be using humour and we can give the opportunity for people to talk about the comments that they make. One of the things that I think a lot of staff, when they're doing online learning, worry about is they start showing PowerPoints, etc. And you get that kind of death by PowerPoint sense where you feel that you've got to be doing you're the one having to do the talking all the time. Whereas as long as you're posing questions within your sessions and asking them to give you input and perhaps just putting some stimulus or send them to a link and say, right, I want you to look at this for a couple of minutes, then I'm going to get you to give me feedback. So run around, or you might say to them, quickly go and find something in your house that relates to this learning thing you're doing. Let's discuss what you've found. What is interesting about that, etc. You can still make quite engaging sessions, albeit that they're all in their own living rooms and their own spaces. We'll be looking at a lot of these strategies next week.
Yeah, and thank you so much there. What I think I'll do there, if I may, is on Lee's point about showing up PowerPoint, is to go back to our slides there for a second, because in the ideas, comments and questions on Menti, we've got something start to come up on there. Please feel free to use that. If you've got it on your mobile, you've got the menti.com, it's 446068. And if I just share my screen here again, so you notice we're starting to get, that's a way that we could gather some thoughts here, basically. So on that, I'm just going to zoom in a bit so you can see a bit better. What we're using in school currently and how this may have far-reaching implications for the future. That's really helpful to see, well, where can we go from here? If you use the Menti, by the way, your comments will come up immediately onto that screen. So if you've got any ideas and things you'd like to share, please pop them there. Lee, yeah, go on.
Oh yeah, the other thing was to mention as well that when we look at the strategies next week as well, because obviously John Paul is using Menti with you now as well. Anything that I will show you next week are strategies that all of you can use, no matter what system you're using. So whether it be, in this case, Collaborate. If a lot of you will be using Google Classroom, so I'll show you how you can put things on Google Classroom and use ways of kind of interacting with them and getting them to respond as well. So anything I show you would be flexible enough to use on whatever system or model that you're currently using as well. Okay.
Fabulous. And just to point out that this really is Lee's field. He does research and stuff about online and blended learning. So, and he's published lots about this. My field is pedagogy analysis, but that opportunity to have Lee really is an expert in this area. So I think it'd be great that opportunity. I'm looking forward to hearing him on all of this. So just another comment coming up there. We also discussed how everyone is adapting to this new way of teaching and learning, which brings its own challenges. Yeah, huge challenges as regards, maybe something of the pedagogy here, but also, challenging behavior coming out during these sessions. And well, what do we do about that? And opportunities and challenges. Please feel free to come in if you have any comments on any of these questions or thoughts, and please carry on to popping questions and comments onto that Menti. We'll revisit that later. Now, I'm just conscious of the time, so I'm just going to take that back off for a moment and pop it back there. Now, we've been looking at those comments and questions. So this thought here is just to say, well, I'd like, many of you might be familiar already with the idea of a community of practice, but just in case you're not, here's a definition. This is something coming in, like right at the end of the 90s, and it can be defined as a learning partnership among people who find it useful to learn from and with each other about a particular domain. They use each other's experience of practice as a learning resource. Yeah. Now, I suppose the reason I'm sort of popping that up is, in a sense, us gathering tonight, we are already a sort of community of practice, but what we'd like to try and support you. We get that, it's hugely challenging what's going on for educators at the moment, and will continue to be challenging, even once lockdown is finished. It's unlikely that we go back to where we were before, and that some of those things are going to be more difficult, but also there's opportunities to maybe include more online and blended learning in our teaching, which could actually really benefit some learners. Now, we've got some lovely thoughts coming up onto the menti.com, so I'm just going to pop that back up just to take those points. And just that pointing just over here I'm looking at, oh, that's nice. You see, I didn't know it got bigger as you went over it. This is certainly helpful and can improve our teaching in the longer term too, as we could have weekend and holiday support for our students via Zooming. Lovely, yeah. Obviously using a variety of online resources. Really like that point about the variety of online resources, the right tool for the right job. And the thing of, many of you have seen, Zoom's got some amazing features. I really like the thing that, you can see so many, is it 49 webcams going all on one screen. And for some context, that's exactly a really useful tool. But then, of course, there's really challenging questions about the privacy as regards something like Zoom, and difficult questions for organisations. These are things that we could talk about, with more sessions like this, if that was of interest. I'm keeping an eye, by the way, for people popping up hands. If you pop up hands, if you'd like to come in, please feel free, and please feel free to carry on, comments and questions on this. It would be good to have some more examples of programs which can be used online. I'll look at the guide. Lovely. Can I point you in the direction of my, here's my website, the john-paul.org.uk, and the blended online and blended learning thing here. So you see, I find I really like using blended learning. I use this as part of my teaching when I'm in seminars with the students. So you might want to explore something like this. But if I go here to the online and blended learning bit, there's lots of tools that you might like to try out, including some things like some very basic and practical things. How about a name spinner? Many of you might know that one already, but I'm going to super full screen. You notice when you spin it, it'll tell you what name you got. I'm hoping you can see that. Yeah, does that make sense? And then as you move the names, you can put your own class in as well. It's just a copy and paste job. Yeah. So just to give you an example, I'm just going to escape to get out of that. Just to give you an example of some of the sorts of tools that are out there. Sorry to hear that the might be having a poor connections. Apologies. Online programs that are more accessible to SEN. Yeah. No, you see, one of our sessions, you know, obviously I've just I'm really interested in. I was a special needs teacher, you know, in St Nicholas School in Canterbury, a school for children with complex needs for 7 years. You know, that's an area I'm particularly personally really interested in. And I've just written a chapter on technology and special educational needs. If the person who put that up, if you emailed me, I'll send. It's not been published just yet. It's coming out soon, but I'll send you the chapter if that was of interest. Lots of really good stuff for people with you know, with special educational needs, complex needs. And thank you so much for this point in yellow here. Oh, look at that. If you click on it, it makes it big. That's good. Sorry, not done that before. I'm interested in looking at the guides and seeing what people are using effectively. This is very new to me, so finding out what tools suit different types of blended learning will be helpful. I really like that point about, you know, how people are using them effectively. There's something about, as practitioners, as teachers, as a community of learners, you know, exploring about what, you know, what might work and what might not, but also perhaps the thing of, you know, engaging with, you know, people like Lee and myself, you know, these weirdos who are educational researchers. You know, there's actually a research angle on this that can give answers to these questions of, well, you know, what's effective and what's not. You know, lovely point there. Please keep those questions going. That's a really useful discussion board developing there. Yeah, set them up for infants. Wouldn't that be interesting? An early years focus here. And that, you know, I have a friend who runs a local preschool, and, you know, wouldn't it be interesting to hear her take on what, you know, what's going on in early years as regards online learning, what works well. Things like Tapestry could be really powerful in that sort of context. But of course, you know, you've got massively difficult questions as regards the finances of things like that, especially in sort of small, you know, small outfits. I'm conscious that we have 4 minutes left, so I'm gonna move on, if you don't mind there. Just gonna take that off the second screen. So I hope you get, you know, the idea of what we're talking about there. This idea of, you know, what we're doing today could be a community of practice, but it might take us time, you know, to relax into this sort of way of working. But we've got the second session next Monday, run by Lee, really focusing on tools. You know, what sort of tools could we use? And Lee's been amazing in the sort of tools he's introduced in the university that a lot of us sort of took up. So, you know, be really interested to hear what he's got to say on this. There's something about, you know, what was that? Sorry, Lee?
Oh, sorry, yeah, just also next week, colleagues, when you come into the room, what we'll do as well is I will model it as a session as well, using the tools that I'm showing you how to use. So you'll get a sense of the effect that they have, you know, and how they can, you know, give a very, very active sense to the learning and try and keep people engaged as well while they're online. So yes, in that sense, a very pragmatic lesson.
I'm rapidly running out of time, so I'm just doing this quickly. But the idea of showing you this was just to say, well, there's all sorts of tools that could work really well as if we had more time. What I'd do is I get one of you online controlling this, where you'd share your screen and I'd talk you through on what you were doing. So apologies to do it like this, but there are tools that allow really quite sort of deep ways of getting in. Any guesses what happens next? Do you want to think? Do you know this one? Isn't that powerful? I'd like to see what it looks like with the you know, the symbols, or with a sort of drawing of there. We could get some ammeters out. There's oops, how does that work again? Oh yeah, that's the flow there. What the flow there? Oh, that's interesting. Same flow. Yeah. Do you get the idea that there's tools that we could we can use with learners, where the learners are controlling it? Because one of my sort of principles in doing initial teacher education is don't do the fun things yourself. And in online learning, it can be really challenging, allowing students the opportunities to do the fun things like a simulator like that. So apologies to do that quickly, but I'm just conscious that I need to finish in a moment. So, you know, high intensity of interaction can involve things like, what's it called, you know, group interactive online activities, but it's very difficult to get to the sort of extreme high intensity pedagogy of group practical work happening in a, you know, in a primary classroom. Maybe it will always be different. So it's just a thought really there. So that was the simulator. That's a hyperlink if you'd like to have a play with that. There's loads of those PHET ones for both science and maths, both for right from primary school right the way up to university level. Huge range of high quality simulators. So we're into the sort of any other business section because we've got to finish in a minute basically. Now I just want to ask with the, you know, the questions that have been going up online, I'm keeping an eye on those. And there may have been sort of overall questions. Yeah, with the Mentimeter, I've just put up a feedback thing. Would you mind doing the little feedback thing on your Mentimeter? So again, going to 446068. Again, I'm just going to show that up onto the screen so you can see what's going on. Could somebody say, you know, how are you finding that? And then the last one is, do you notice there's a question that somebody's asked using the Mentimeter, and we're just going to go to that as well. So please use the code. Lovely. Do you notice that's telling me I need to stop? Which I will in 1 minute. Does that give you a rough idea of, you know, what other people in the room think about, you know, about this? Strongly, we're getting. I'm glad to hear finding it useful. Thank you. Pace was just about. Yeah, we're heading in that direction. I know that won't be the answer for everybody. Yeah, and what to do next? I'm hoping next week actually will be where we could focus on that. So if you're able to join us next week, that would be fantastic. Thank you. Please carry on voting onto that. I'm just going to go to the question here. Would like a copy of your research papers. Lovely. Yeah, please email me. So you can find me easily online, or on Twitter, I'm at JP Science. If any of you use that. So I think we're sort of out of time. These were just a few final thoughts that I might have taken you know, down if we'd had lots of time at the end. They were my buffer. Before we finish, thank you so much for the feedback. That's really helpful. May I ask, could you just pop up your hand? Oh, could you use the chat window? Oh no, here we go. Could you use first of all, my status? Can you give a face, an emoji, just to show how you're feeling about the session? And then could you use the chat window for any last, you know, thoughts or comments? And please feel free to pop your microphones on and webcam. I'm around now for the next 5 minutes for anybody who's got any more time who'd like to have a word in the main room. We're going to leave the recording going during that, if that's okay. Thank you so much for coming. Really, really nice to meet you. I hope that was useful. Thank you for all those smileys. That's really, really helpful. And if anybody would like a word with the recording off, just say, and I'd be happy to do that. Lovely. So we're open to questions or thoughts, basically, at this point. And if you're done, have a lovely evening. Thank you for coming. Brilliant. Thank you so much for all those messages. That's really kind. Oh, Ellen, that one about the Facebook clip of US secondary children where the children pranked their teacher during an online lesson, passing a pencil around to each other and then saying, Andy's coming. Oh, I'm going to follow that one up. Thank you so much. Tools and guides. Look. Lovely. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the recording now, if that's okay with everyone.